In the summer of 1942, the tides of war on the Eastern Front reached a crisis point. The German war machine, having battered the Soviet Union since 1941, set its sights on a prize, the city of Stalingrad, now Volgograd, perched on the banks of the Volga River. This city was more than a strategic point. It bore the name of Soviet leader Joseph Stalin, symbolizing defiance and Soviet pride. Why Stalingrad? The Germans believed that by seizing it they could sever Soviet transport links along the Volga, capture the rich oil fields of the Caucasus beyond, and deliver a morale-crushing blow to the Soviet Union. Meanwhile, the Soviets saw the defense of the city as a matter of survival, both militarily and ideologically. From July 17, 1942, until February 2, 1943, what followed was among the most brutal, destructive, and decisive battles in human history. In the early phase, German forces, led by the Sixth Army under Friedrich Paulus, pushed toward Stalingrad as part of a larger summer offensive, Operation Blue, into southern Russia. The Luftwaffe smashed the city with aerial bombardments. Housing stock was decimated, and whole districts reduced to rubble. One account estimates up to 90% of the housing destroyed in some zones. As German troops entered, they encountered not only Soviet military resistance but determined civilian defenders and, critically, a bloody urban environment which favored defense. The ruins of factories, apartment blocks, and sewers became killing grounds. For the Soviets, the command of Vasily Chuikov in the 62nd Army knew the battle for Stalingrad was symbolic. He ordered, not a step back, and directed defense in the ruins and along the Volga bank with ferocity. As August and September of 1942 progressed, the fighting degenerated into the most savage urban warfare of the war. German infantry and armor advanced into shattered buildings, facing Soviet snipers, obstacles, rubble, mines, and lethal counterattacks. The Soviets used tactic after tactic, concealed positions in basements, locked doors as barricades, close quarters fighting in stairwells, and nighttime raids. The Germans, confident of swift victory, found themselves bogged down, exposed to Soviet artillery from the opposite bank of the Volga, and hampered by supply lines stretched thin. The weather turned colder, conditions worsened, and morale frayed. By November, the Germans controlled perhaps 3/4 of the city, but they had not sealed the Soviet defenders, nor had they broken the will of the Red Army. Meanwhile, Soviet reserves were assembled and prepared to strike. On 19 November 1942, the Soviets launched Operation Uranus, a massive pincer movement striking the weaker Romanian and Hungarian forces guarding the German flanks around Stalingrad. The German High Command had focused the Sixth Army on the city, leaving its flanks vulnerable. The rapid Soviet blow penetrated deep, encircling the bulk of the German Sixth Army and other Axis units inside a cauldron, Kessel, around Stalingrad. For the trapped Germans, the nightmare began. Supply lines cut. Winter setting in, casualties mounting, food and ammunition scarce. German forces attempted a relief operation, Operation Winter Storm, but it failed to break through. Hitler forbade a retreat, declaring the Sixth Army must hold fast and be supplied by air, a hope that proved impossible. In January 1943, the Soviet offensive closed the ring more tightly. The remaining German and Axis forces were compressed into ever smaller pockets. The last German field marshal to be appointed, Friedrich Paulus, found himself commanding a defeated army that Hitler declared must fight to the last man. On February 1943, the final German forces surrendered. Over 90,000 German troops were taken prisoner. Several thousand subsequently died in Soviet captivity. The cost estimates vary, but more than 1 million people, soldiers and civilians, died or were missing. The city lay in ruins. Factories wrecked, population decimated. The Volga Bank a graveyard of tanks, bodies and shattered dreams. The Battle of Stalingrad is widely regarded as the turning point of the Second World War on the Eastern Front. After it, German strategic initiative on the Eastern Front was lost. The Red Army seized the momentum, and after months of rebuilding launched successive offensives westwards. For Germany, the psychological blow was immense. The myth of the invincible Wehrmacht was shattered. German morale and trust in high command were greatly diminished. For the Soviets, the victory became an emblem of national resilience. The city of Stalingrad became heroic. The phrase Stalingrad, a symbol of Soviet sacrifice and heroism. The human suffering at Stalingrad was staggering. Civilians buried in bombing, freezing in the winter, trapped in the city when evacuation was impossible. One source notes that when the bombing campaign began, only about 100,000 of the 700,000 residents had been evacuated. For soldiers, life in the ruins meant short rations, bitter cold, constant artillery fire, hand-to-hand fighting, and the ever-present threat of being cut off or captured. The German air supply plan failed. The promised tons of supplies seldom arrived. Many succumbed to frostbite, disease, hunger, or sheer exhaustion. The scale of equipment lost, thousands of guns, tanks, aircraft on both sides over the months of fighting. Today, the ground of Stalingrad, Volgograd, is dotted with memorials. On the hill of Mamayev Kurgan stands the towering statue, the Motherland Calls, symbolizing the Soviet victory. The battle is taught in military academies around the world as a case study in urban warfare, supply logistics, morale, leadership, and attrition warfare. In hindsight, the Battle of Stalingrad shows the danger of underestimating the defender in urban terrain, the perils of overreach and logistical failure, the power of symbolic targets in war, the way a single battle can reshape the strategic map. As you reflect on this epic clash, imagine the shattered factories, the frozen bodies in the streets, the desperate last stands, and the final surrender. It was more than a battle. It was a transformation of war itself.